I guess I guess semi positive story to start. Um but we were going to talk about this last week. I was sick last week. I'm not sick anymore. I still have lingering cough. I apologize. I'll try and hit the mute button before I cough. But see, if I say cough, then I have to cough even more. But Sean Strickland had a pretty juicy interview. Now I want to say it's like been 11 or 12 days, but so about 2 weeks ago, that kind of set the internet ablaze. And I don't care how relevant or trendy the news is. I think it's important to talk about. So we'll listen to this clip. We'll listen to it in its entirety. It's a bit long. And if you know Sean Strickland, he is a huge fan of the F word. I think he's sponsored by the F word. So tried to censor them all. I think I got them all. Apologies if I didn't, but I'm pretty sure I did, but we'll see.
Are you Canadian?
Of course I am.
Are you part of the fucking opposition? Are you?
I don't know how to phrase that.
I mean, you got like. Yeah.
Well, I did want to ask.
Did you vote for Trudeau?
I'm not going to say.
And let me tell you something right now. If a man says he's not going to say, like, if you ask him, motherfucker, did you vote for Biden? He's like, well, I'm not going to say. That's none of your business. He voted for fucking Biden.
Sean,
so hey,
Sean, I'm glad you had great
100%.
experience.
So this is what I'm talking about, you guys. The enemy of Canada.
Sure.
All right.
That's what it's got to be. It's got to be. We've got a pretty supportive gay and lesbian community in this city. I did want to ask you about something you wrote a couple of years ago. You said if I had a gay son, I would think I'd.
Oh, look, another. I'm saying to you, the swamp, you guys, the swamp.
You become a champion, you become a star, and someone says.
Let me ask you something. Are you gay?
Have you had the chance to interact with a more diverse?
Are you? Let me know. Are you gay?
Could I get an answer?
Well, no, I'm asking. This is a part of. Are you a gay man?
I'm an ally of the community.
Okay. If you had a son and he was like, you had a son, he was gay, you'd be like, oh man, you don't want a grandkid?
No problem with it.
Oh man, well, dude, you're a weak fucking man, dude. You're part of the.
Hello? There we go. We can talk about the first half of the video. I agree. And Donald Trump was one of the first people to say it. And Sean Strickland's echoing it here. At this point, the media is the enemy. Whatever enemy means to you, they are doing a disservice to you on purpose. They are not talking about the important things. You can't find the border crisis on CNN, MSNBC. You can't find it on the first page of Fox News either, because the media is doing this trash. So I completely agree where he's saying this is the bull crap. This is you, the media, doing your enemy thing, saying all we can talk about is LGBTQ issues. All we can talk about is how women have to shatter some glass ceiling. All we can talk about is gay and lesbian. Sometimes they throw handicapped people in there now, which I think is just wildly offensive to people that have disabilities. But what are your thoughts on the first half of the clip?
It was hard to hear what he had to say because you had to censor pretty much every other word from what he was saying. And I appreciate, calling out this reporter. And it's astonishing to me because, like you said, it's all that we're allowed to talk about. I mean, this is a UFC event, and I'm not entirely sure what the context is leading up to this clip. But I can't imagine that there was anything that they were discussing that had anything to do with LGBTQ issues. And somehow the media manages to shoehorn this topic into every single conversation. And they've got to find out not whether or not you have gay friends, whether or not you know LGBTQ people, but are you an ally? Are you going to promote them on your platform? Are you going to use your platform in their favor? That is all they want to know. They don't want to know about what you're doing, don't want to know about his skill set, as a UFC fighter. They want to know what his stance is on the LGBTQ position and the community and whatever else, and what he plans to do and how he plans to use his public name and his popularity to benefit them. And that's it.
I hate hearing the term ally at this point. I'm not black or brown, but I'm an ally. I'm not gay, but I'm an ally. Like, I hate hearing it. But you're so right. They're trying to shoehorn it in such a way that the reporter even said at the outset, I had to go back and see something that you tweeted that you wrote years ago. Like, here it is now, UFC 297, I think, championship fight. You are the world champion, best fighter in the world. But I want to talk about this thing that you wrote on the internet several years ago. It's outrageous.
Exactly. And I actually wanted to touch on the whole allyship, the use of this word, because it drives me crazy as well. When you're an ally to somebody, to me, it's like a mutually beneficial relationship. Like, you're an ally to each other. What benefit do I have of being an ally of the LGBTQ community? Are they offering me the same respect? Are they offering me the same, things that they're demanding? Are they offering me, are they being inclusive of my beliefs? To me, it is a very, very one-sided allyship that the only people
it's not even. It's not even. It's not even an allyship. It's actually it's a hostile relationship. It's exploitative, because what they're doing is they're saying, be my ally, represent my interest, and I won't go after you. They're saying, I'll come for your job, I'll come for your relationships, I'll come for your life savings, I'll try and get you debanked. And the bigger a platform you have, the more that they're threatening and the more that they're coming after. So they're saying they're pulling a United States government with foreign policy. They're saying, be my friend or else, represent my interest or else.
And I think that that's probably exactly what this reporter is trying to do. It's like, are you going to support us? Are you going to use your platform in our favor? Or do we get to target you? Do we get to hold you hostage? Do we get to make an example of you? Because there's no middle ground. And it's tyranny at a very strategic level, because I really hadn't thought about it that way. When these reporters come in and ask these stupid questions and we're looking at them like, why are you even bringing this up? They're really trying to figure out who is going to obey, who's going to comply, who's going to go along with it, and who they can make an example of.
They're demanding people kiss the ring. And I think it's hilarious, because we'll see in the rest of this clip, we'll also see in Dana White's clip, that these men are cut from like a different cloth. Like, he's like, I beat the crap out of people for a living, and you're going to try and intimidate me? He's like, what can you take from me? So long as I can get in the octagon and do what I do, you can't take anything from me. My fans, my sport, the whole of my sport, they could give two craps about this. It's manly dudes. It's like hardcore chicks stepping into the arena and like getting down and dirty. Like these fights are, if you've not seen a UFC or an MMA style fight, guys, they're intense, incredible athletes, the nerves, I've only done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. Oh, that's not true. I did freestyle in the Army. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to get into this and say, I'm going to open myself up to get pummeled by someone, and you take some serious blows.
Well, and I mean, just one more point, when you were saying like he's a physical guy, these are strong athletes and they can't intimidate them in that way. So that's why they don't go after them by physical means. This is an ideological hostage situation. Sorry, I promise I can talk. But that's what they're doing. I mean, they know that, that everybody can have different body types and different physical skills and abilities, but this is putting everybody on even playing field and saying, we can hold you hostage and intimidate you in this way.
I agree. All right, let's watch the rest of the clip.
Okay.
Maybe. There we go.
Problem. You elected Justin Trudeau. Like, when he sees the bank accounts, like, you're just fucking pathetic. And the fact that you have no fucking backbone, and has he shut down your fucking country and seized bank accounts? You ask me some stupid shit like that, go fuck yourself. Move the fuck on, man.
That really answered the question, but I did want to ask also things you said about the trans community. You said this past October when they announced the Bud Light sponsorship that you'd go so hard on Bud Light in your next fight, they'll have to accept me or denounce me when they know what and will know what they stand for. Are you
This
still
guy's like, hey, this Canadian's not that Canadian.
Are you still going to use your fight time to kind of speak on that?
Here's the thing about Bud Light. 10 years ago, to be trans was a mental fucking illness. And now all of a sudden, people like you have fucking weaseled your way into the world. You are an infection. You are the definition of weakness. Everything that is wrong with the world is because of fucking you. And the best thing is the world's not buying it. The world's not buying your fucking bullshit you're fucking peddling. The world is not saying, you know what? You're right. Fucking chicks have dicks. The world's not saying that. The world's saying, no, there are two genders. I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could fucking school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there, asking these stupid fucking questions.
Again, that's Sean Strickland, brought to you by the F word.
Right. If the F-bomb was paying, handing out checks, he would be a billionaire.
He's not wrong, though.
He's not wrong, but here's the thing. I think that Sean Strickland, is that his name? I think he thinks he won this conversation, but in my opinion, he played right into the hands of the reporter. When it comes to these conversations, I think that you need to keep it short, you need to keep it concise, and not entertain these questions at all, because this reporter came to this meeting with the intention of finding out, again, whether he is an ally or whether he is a target. And by allowing Sean Strickland engaging in this conversation and continuing to go off, he has put himself exactly where this reporter wanted to put him. I think he should have just stopped talking and moved on to other questions.
That is a really good point. And people who do it expertly, actually, Ben Shapiro doesn't do a great job. Jordan Peterson does a great job of shutting down nonsense like that. And he'll just say, no, it's not. Mm-hmm. Because the reporter's like, allyship is the number one issue. Where do you stand? Have you changed your mind? And he'll just be like, no, it's not. And just kind of sit there, like, move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Yep. He spent 2.5 minutes on it. This is an asked and answered thing, especially after the quips. Like, hey, you're a joke. Your profession is a joke, and you guys are all communist losers. Let's move on.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
That's a good take. All right, we got to move in the Dana. Dana did it in half the time, so this is a minute-long clip.
Fighters about what they can. I just want to go back. You were talking about, like, you obviously give a long leash to your fighters about what they can say when they are up there with a UFC microphone, and you are getting into territory of homophobia, transphobia. Like, is there?
I don't give anybody a leash.
Well, I'm saying you
a leash.
I'm like
free speech. Control what people say. Going to tell people what to believe. Going to tell people. I don't tell any other human being what to say, what to think, and there's no leashes on any of them. What is your question?
I was asking that question. I'll move on, though.
Yeah, probably a good idea. That's ridiculous to say I give somebody a leash. Free speech, brother. People can say whatever they want, and they can believe whatever they want. And I don't think there's any. We had two gay women who fought in the co-main event. They sat on the stage with Sean Strickland. They could give a shit what Sean Strickland thinks, or what he says, or what his beliefs are, or what his opinions are.
I think it's an interesting take. I like that last part because guys, your sexuality is not the thing. It's not, I have relationships with friends, I have relationships with colleagues, and the basis of our relationship, the main focus, every time we get together, isn't sex or our sexuality or weird kinky fetishes that we have. If we don't have them, none of that stuff is normal. And they're trying to force it to say, these are the things that matter. This is the Overton window, that list of acceptable topics and how deep you can dive in. It's like, no. What goes on in the bedroom is actually, the Overton window is supposed to be somewhere else. Especially if you have like my beliefs, it's like, oh yeah, you should be married, one man, one woman, and what they do in the bedroom is between them and God, and that's it. That's unacceptable. That's radical. But here we are, and I think he did a better job of shutting down the air quotes journalist. But this is one of those times, again, Jordan Peterson does this very well, when people are reckless with their tongue and they say something stupid. We are in a time where you need to make them pay for it. Make them suffer for stupidity, because no, we're not leashing humans. That's something that a socialist or a communist would be very comfortable with, or one of these weird, alphabet fetish people. But no, that's not something that a decent man would do to someone else, is to threaten their livelihood, to threaten them by saying, I control what you think, what you believe. I control your public statements, or I will take everything from you. Your home, your relationships, your job, your career. This is the same crap that University of, I think, Toronto tried to do to Jordan Peterson. And now he has to go through retraining, social training, or some bull crap, which is basically going to be, when you change your opinion to what our authorized opinion is, then you're healed. So I think Dana White did a better job than Strickland. What are your thoughts?
I think he did as well. I still think he played a little too much into it, but I understand, I haven't been faced with this line of questioning to any kind of measurable degree in my life. Thankfully, I live in Texas. It's still relatively normal here. This is not something that people talk about. I feel like at the end of the Strickland clip, because I watched it earlier uncensored, and I feel like I need to wash my brain after watching that. But at the end of it, I feel like, I believe he said something about, I like gay people, this is not an issue for me. And and then there's Dana, is it Dana White?
Yeah.
Where he's talking about how, we have gay people on the team and they don't care what he says. It's almost like, instead of name dropping, people feel the need to like identity drop. And, they throw it out there like, I have friends that are gay. I have, acquaintances or people in my life or people that I work with that are LGBTQ. And they feel the need to put these people on display to demonstrate that they are not against them or not discriminating against them. And I think that's another trap that people fall into. It's like, I don't feel like I need to justify or need to explain myself as not being discriminatory, when in my life I have not acted in that way. It's almost like apologizing for doing something when you haven't done anything wrong. I don't owe these people an explanation. I don't need to sit down and list out all of the people in my life that have different identities or races or cultures to prove that I'm a decent human being. I'm a human being who respects other human beings. I don't owe these people an explanation. I don't need to sit down.
Why is that?
And that is, that's all that's needed, I don't know if that made sense, but it's just
totally agree.
It's almost like the people that, when they would call you a racist and be like, see, I have a black friend. It's like, it doesn't matter to these people.
Our president's really black.
Exactly. It doesn't matter to them. All that matters is that you are either an ally or a target, and they need to figure out which category to put you in. And no amount of talking or apologizing or identity dropping is going to change that.
That's true. That's true. It's annoying because it's almost like, what do you do? Do you do just complete stonewall? Like, this isn't important. But because they're trying to force its importance.
Yeah.
But it's not.
No, I think the answer is just to say, this is not important. And that's it. It's important if you engage in the conversation. I think we need to just shut it down immediately, because that might be the only way that we're going to rewire people's brains, because they're talking about it because they think it's important. They've been told, that this is the most important thing about who human beings are, is their sexuality or whatever other things that they can point out that separate them from being just like a plain old white person. It's like, I think we just need to shut it down and say, you know what, this is not important, because it's not.
This is so hard for me to do, but this is a literal commandment, because in the Bible, when God says do something or don't do something, we call those commandments, not the 10 commandments, but the Bible literally says, do not argue with the fool. And I have so much trouble with this, because I'll be in there. I'm not dropping the F-bombs, but I'm in there like these two guys arguing with these people. And sometimes I have the thought, this is an idiot. I'm arguing with a fool. Sometimes the thought comes as like, oh, I'm smarter than this person. Like, what am I doing? Not intelligentsia smarter, but like, this person is dumb. Yeah, so I mean, because of that, your method is your method is the biblically mandated method. If you're going to tell me that men can menstruate and have babies and chest feed and all of this other weird stuff, you are clearly a fool. Like, you're the person that Proverbs is talking about. Do not argue with a progressive, like, because you guys believe stuff that's obviously not true.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. I definitely got into it maybe about a week ago, and online is like the worst place to have these conversations.
I read some of your online quibbles. They're pretty fun.
It is the worst place. I don't think in the history of online history, I don't think anybody's mind has ever been changed through an online conversation with somebody. So it really isn't worth it. But sometimes, I entertain, I see where it's going to go, and it ends up at the same dead end spot every single time. But all of us are having these conversations at different points. And usually, it's with family members, it's at get-togethers. Things come up. It's even coming up in like church conversations and with people that you would never expect it. So I understand you're going to have to, make points here and there, but for the most part, you can tell when the conversation is even worth getting into. But when they start going into this, men can menstruate and we need to put tampons in the boys' bathroom and all this stuff, like, at that point, it is just like,
game over.
And we're done.